And having to come home and rebuild and espouse normality after seeing horrors has always seemed to me to be such a courageous thing to do. And climbing back to normality after trauma is much, much harder. It's much harder to rebuild than to destroy. In some ways, it would have been a neat ending to kill him, a neater ending to kill him, but I felt it would have been a betrayal because I wanted my hero, and he's my hero, to do what I think is the most noble thing. So he came back from war and he tried to build a better world, I suppose, corny as that sounds, both on a small scale for a family and a larger scale.
Jo ends the series by giving Harry a family. She's worked out the future of all the surviving characters and draws out a family tree for the Potters and the Weasleys.
Victoire, who's in the epilogue, she is so named because she was born on the anniversary of the battle that finished it all, which is the 2nd of May, if anyone's been paying attention. And then Charlie had children or married.
Is he gay?
Dumbledore's gay. But I told a reader that once, and I thought she was going to slap me. But I always saw Dumbledore as gay. No, I don't think Charlie's gay. Just more interested in dragons than women. Percy married Audrey. Don't you think that's a very Percy-like wife's name? And they had Molly and Lucy. And then Fred, poor Fred, died in 1997. And then George, a lot of readers asked me, was George all right? And of course he wouldn't be all right, would he? That's the reality. I can't. But I think that he married Angelina, who was actually Fred's ex, so you can... Maybe it's a bit unhealthy, but I think that they would have been happy as he could be without Fred. I think he really would have felt like part of himself died.
And then there's Ginny, who marries Harry.
And Ginny marries Harry, and they have James, Sirius, godparents Ron and Hermione. They have Albus Severus, who's the one I'm most interested in. And then third, Lily Luna, for their dear friend.
And what happens to Luna?
Oh, Luna marries Rolf Scamander, who is the grandson of a great naturalist, so they'd have a very interesting life, globe-trotting and looking for weird animals. But I think she'd have twin boys. But later, that would be much later than this lot, who all settled down earlier.
And are they happy?
Yes, I think so. My lot are all happy.
The twin boys have got names too?
Lorcan and Lysander, if that's all right with you.
Very Shakespearean.
I can't help it. You know what it was like? It was like running a race and you get to the finishing line and you're running too fast to stop, so I do know what happened afterwards. So I couldn't stop my imagination doing that. So I know this sounds an awful lot of detail to go into for your own satisfaction and not because you're planning to write more books, but that's just how it was. I couldn't stop. I had to know what happened next.
Well, you always have to know more than you put in, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. And I carried that on into another generation, but yes,
So all of that could be another book?
Yeah. Don't. Oh, no, it can't be. No. I think it would, I think it's definitely time to stop now. It gives me a certain satisfaction to say what I thought happened and to tell other people that because I would like my version to be the official version still, even though I've not written it in a book, because it's my world. But no, I don't want to write any more Hogwarts books.
It's clear that Jo has come to the end of a massive piece of writing. She's found a kind of closure, both in her work and in her family life.
I'm making David's birthday cake because he's 4 tomorrow. But it's just the family tea birthday cake, because the day after that we have the party for all his friends, and then he gets a shop-made Lightning McQueen from the Disney Pixar film with which he is obsessed. Baking really reminds me of my mother. She made fantastic cakes, so that really makes me feel like I'm doing the proper motherly thing when I'm making birthday cakes. And David really likes my cakes, particularly.
Did you grow up with the smell of baking?
Yeah, my mum was a good cook, but she didn't get to stretch her wings much because my father greatly mistrusted foreign food. But on cakes and buns and bread, she was fantastic, and that was permissible, so that's where she got to show her paces, as it were.
The memory of childhood is clearly one of Jo's main themes, but now that both she and Harry Potter have families, has she lost her principal inspiration?
I'm happier now than I've ever been in my life. I'm happier now than I was as a child, teenager, young adult. You know, I think middle age is probably going to be my time.
If her life and her writing have been some kind of struggle for completion, and she's now found it, what, if anything, is she going to do next? Has she written her last book? The Caledonian Hotel, Edinburgh. The top brass of both Warner Brothers and Universal Studios have flown over for a meeting with J.K. Rowling. Hollywood comes to her. She doesn't need to go to Hollywood. They're discussing the building of a massive 20-acre Harry Potter theme park in Florida and are seeking her approval.
You know what? Sitting in a room full of people who are trying to impress you, that's when I feel at my most fraudulent. Because I feel like I'm about 13 and they're all grown-ups. And I cover that up quite well, but I often think, why are you all looking at me for? Because for years I was the least important person in the room, and I was doodling on my notepad when I should have been taking minutes and actually writing Harry Potter stories.
The howler is floating in space, and its mouth is moving, but you can't hear what it's saying. But if you stand in the perfect spot right in front of this window, you have what's called hypersonic sound, and only that one person can hear what the howler is saying.
I think it must be quite odd to be J.K. Rowling. Half of her life seems almost normal, while the other half seems completely mad.
And the sensor will tell that there's somebody there. It will open its eyes, growl, and lunge at you.
There's also the question of money. According to some press reports, you have £570 million. Is this true?
Those reports are bollocks.
How much do you have?
Loads, but I'm not telling you how much, but it's definitely not 570.
Why won't you tell me?
Because I think it's private.
But you have lots of millions